Alright, so I headed back to town. I rested up to reset all my daily abilities. Also sold off a bunch of shit. I was gonna buy some new gear, but they didn't really have anything that was better. There were a few like side grades, and it was like, eh. But we're gonna try this again now that I'm all fully healed up and have all my abilities. Alright, just got it. Fall back. I'm gonna turn off the AI so they don't automatically jump in too soon. Move you over there so you can get that going. Only you fall back.
Brave thou Philogny.
Oh, that's right, he doesn't have free tails. How much does it restore?
Moe X Ana. Oh, get.
Where are you at, Aloth? Let's actually get in here a little bit. What do you want, phone? Oh, be quiet. Why are you not doing that? Badly injured. You should do this. Low endurance skeleton, I don't care.
Ana.
He's almost down. Destroyed, thank God. Alright, everybody fall back.
Brave thou Philogny.
Injured, barely injured, not at all.
Lavar.
Watch out, Connor!
Can't get a good shot with this.
Mo. What you got? Prone. still need to wreck this guy.
Anna! Anna!
Oh, am I healing him too? Motherfucker.
That's Arthur. Arthur.
Lava Baru, be on seek!
I need more damage. Finish him off.
Dead on!
Lava Ru, be on seek!
Can't get a good shot with this.
See, Anna!
See, that's a healer.
Can't get a good shot with this. Can't get a good shot with this.
Come on, boys.
See,
How many more heals does this bitch have? It'll help.
Can't get a good
I can
shot
win this
with
because I
this.
forgot to quick save before I started. Come on, girls.
Can't get a good shot with this.
Almost down. Well, me and you, bro. Let's go. Got him. Whew.
no problem.
Why am I still in combat? Why am I still in combat? I don't understand. Must be somebody back here that didn't follow? Aha.
Let's go!
Why does she keep critting me? What the fuck? Come on, come on. Whew. All right. Crumpled at her feet lies the body of a woman. She wears a dark robe that bears an insignia resembling a key. As you approach the woman's body, feelings of rage assault you. The dead woman's voice howls in your ears. Her lingering consciousness rends at yours. Her essence tingles through the bones and membranes. It fills the spaces between your ears and behind your eyes, clawing deep into your core. You see a gathering of men and women wearing robes like hers, their faces behind masks. One by one they approach her, whom they know as Acolyte, and she places her hand on each of their foreheads, searching their thoughts. She tests them with ritualistic questions, and they answer their oath is sealed by the leaden key. She asks them of their task and gives them new ones, all without a word. Try to see the tasks. Her essence flares, fighting to boil your blood, burning your memory and splintering your bones from within. Yet between its strikes, you see flashes of something else: a tower, a prisoner, and a ruin. You funnel all your concentration into a single effort of will, a sharp point that pins the raging soul in place like an insect in a display case. With the thing under control, you're able to examine it and three thoughts swirling inside. Let's look at the ruins. The Acolyte's vision takes you out of Defiance Bay into a town in the wilderness within a watermill. A signpost on one of the paths reads Dire Fort. Several figures huddled together, shrouded in cloaks and hoods. An image of ruins suddenly looms in your mind. Two skeletal effigies flank a cleft in a mountainside. The prisoner. In your mind you see a building, magnificent with trellises and tiles and located on a pristine boulevard. The wealthy and learned stroll in and out, trading knowledge and coin. You also see a house, yet it also houses misery and madness. Somewhere within its rotten core sits a man, his hair matted but his eyes alert. He watches and waits, a prisoner by choice. And the tower. You see a palimpsest? Palimpsest. I don't know if that's a real word. Of a neighborhood. Run-down estates are cobbled around the cemetery and the ancient tower. Savage shapes prowl the streets, and in the tower a man haunches over a strange mechanism. You can hear him clearly, but there's something unnatural about him. Somewhere nearby, you see a woman with a scar over her heart. You understand that she has something he needs. You also see a door in the base of the tower, a seemingly impenetrable slab of stone and copper. But then the Acolyte reveals the inevitable split between the perfectly matched halves, and you understand how the copper veins convert a command into action. You know how to open the door. Back away. Salute that one first while I'm here. Okay, you got some stuff. boy, that's a lot of loot to go through. Camp. Oh, well, that battle was a massive pain in the ass. You awake to see Durance, his staff held in both of his hands before him. A flame flickers at the top end, casting long shadows across his face as he stares in contemplation. Still, for all the light of the fire, your eyes can't focus on him. Perhaps it is awakening from the sleep or a trick of the light, but he seems indistinct, blurred around the edges, everything except for the staff. The staff, he seems to be studying its engravings. As you watch, the engravings glow thinly red, like through the cracks of heat-suffused wood. The lines seem to I cannot talk today. The lines stream like molten metal, burning along the edges of his staff, then branch out in an intricate series of fiery veins, bunching thickly where his hands clutch the wood, pulsing as if a heartbeat. As you watch, the veins spiral into a dozen separate circles that spiral again until they arrange in a circle of their own. They pulse, wait, and all is strangely silent, and then suddenly there is a great light from the fire, a rushing of air, a great flash, and you awaken again to see Durance in the same place, still holding his staff, but he is solid, real. He doesn't seem to have noticed you, or reacted to what occurred. What the hell was that, Durance? Thought I felt your eyes on me. Now come the words.
If doubts and curiosity plague you, you're skinning your knuckles on the wrong door.
I saw something strange. You were sitting by the fire, and I saw a great light from your staff.
Tell me what you saw.
It was like a flash, like an explosion, a rushing of air, incredibly bright.
It is the light of the Godhammer you saw.
The Godhammer.
It was a weapon of Deerwood's people, a symbol of their independence. It saved the Deerwood.
What do you know about it?
It brought the Saints' War to an end, knocked a god from his perch. There are few that would deny Eothas overstepped. The Godhammer reminded Eothas of it. You saw its light because I helped shape it, give it life, and release it into the world. Once seen, its glory is almost too bright to be believed, and too bright to be forgotten. There were 12 of us. We fashioned the weapon, drafted plans for it, prayed for guidance at Ashfall, and it came to me there. Each of us were given a staff made from the forest of black trees around us, glowing with embers and fire far greater than this branch you see now. It felt as if the staff was Margaren's own finger, guiding my hand, guiding the other 11, the shadows of the 12 who would come to stand on the bridge to stop Eothas.
Shadows of the 12?
Even in that stand, there was a ritual to it. For the 12 that stood on the bridge, there were 12 shadows cast, 12 faithful of Margren, her fiercest supporters and shapers of the Godhammer.
Durance rests his staff in front of him, and the flame atop it curls for a moment, a light flaring slightly. It splits into a ring of flames, one after another, until 12 is met.
As 12 held Eothas fast, we 12 unleashed our prayers, and let the Godhammer fall.
Then it blossoms brightly once and resumes its candle intensity. In the aftermath, the shadows seem sharper in the vicinity, as if they have edges, and you can blink to clear your vision. Durance is still staring at the tiny candle-like flame intently.
Shadows cast by the fire of the Godhammer, perhaps. But we shared their fate as well in time. Now the spine of the Deerwood is marked by the Godhammer, marked by Margaret.
What do you mean, shared their fate?
Not all deaths come with stilled breath and stilled heart, or other stilled passions beneath the waste. Some deaths come from silence. The connection we once shared with Margren, After the light of the Godhammer, it was not the same. It was as if we'd lost our senses, and sense of purpose as well. Instead of victory being welcomed, there was silence, within and without. Not many can claim to have killed a god. It is less a heroic tale than you would think. And such a death, it changed our faith. All faiths, I expect. Doubt followed, and the world changed. I do not believe Margaret was pleased by what we had done.
Why is that?
The world is broken. The wheel stilled. There is sickness in the world's heart. Perhaps the price of crossing a god. Crossing two gods. Even as Margaret shaped our hands, perhaps we carried her will farther than was allowed. Just as Widewind did. Saint Widewind. Mortal arrogance to match mortal arrogance. Yet if the world had changed, then I sought to change with it. If I had forgotten some of Margaret's teachings, I would find them again. I would make her see me again.
What did you do?
I remembered Margaret's teachings. How reminders on the flesh were more important than the death of a vessel. And I wondered if killing Aethys, if that had simply set him free. Had it allowed him to escape his punishment and be taken on the wheel? Like a mortal? As I stepped from the now blessed Godhammer Bridge, I thought of Ashfall. I thought of the War of Black Trees. Wondered if I needed to be burned to find myself again. That is Margaret at her heart. At least that is my hope. These are the doubts that befall me.
What happened when you returned to Ashfall?
The road to Ashfall is long. Gives one time to think. And if you think long enough, you do not go home. I left without telling anyone, with only the robes I wore at Halgot, my staff, and my name, which is long buried. Of my fellow 11 craftsmen, disciples, I know not what happened to them, if they suffered the same doubt as I did. But it was underserved. It was wrong. We had done all that, or had asked. Grab victory from defeat and
You feel as if your god has betrayed you.
there is something about being used and cast aside. Perhaps Widewen himself felt it. There at the end, when the hammer struck. To be the proof that your god is hollow as the vessel it inhabits. I tried to find purpose, and avoided all contact with other Magranic priests. Did not seek the walls of Ashfall, and sought to make amends to my god through actions. I joined with the Purges for a time, and not long after came the first signs of the Hollowborn. So many crimes, trespasses, violations. The Salvation. Animancers were another sickness born of the Saints' War. A relapse of innovation, of desperation to heal what we had caused. All seemed worse than before the bridge, not better. And as years passed, the world became even worse still for the victory.
Maybe the purges weren't what Magrin wanted either. Sweat collects in the sooty creases of his forehead and runs down his ruddy cheeks. It drips from the tip of his nose. His mouth moves, but its utterances make no sound. He is, for once, at a loss. Feeling your gaze, he quickly composes himself, wiping his forehead with the back of a dirty hand.
Huh? Worship the whims of some fickle bitch, and you'll never be more than dirt beneath her feet. Worship what she worships, on the other hand. Take her fire for your own, and her esteem comes on its own. Of course, by that time you no longer need it. Trial and transformation, sure as Durance taught.
Durance glares at you, staring into his eyes, giving you the feeling of peering over the edge of a great cliff.
You think to put the coals to my feet, but what's burned once will never burn again. These talks are your trial, Watcher. You cannot deflect the truth to one who has already been purified by it.
Tell me what happened on the bridge. We chose the bridge because we could control it. Durance's hands tightened at the top of his staff, as if holding it by the neck. It was a place where we could choke Eothas in his own footsteps, where we knew his feet would fall, a narrow neck of stone. But it was more than that. It was a spine of the Direwood. Symbolic of its backbone, such symbols are important in the construction of a weapon. Durance studies his staff, eyes traveling along the etchings. Any weapon. Durance's face hardened, his eyes burned, his eyebrows narrowing. I suspect Eothas knew as well, and so did his vessel, in its arrogance. His hands tightened on the staff. He intended to walk upon the bridge as if walking on the back of the Direwood, and we intended to burn him with the light of our faith, and his 12 on the bridge, 12 in the shadows, and gave ourselves to it. Gave yourselves to it?
We put much of ourselves into the Godhammer. Such a device is not simply a machine. There are elements of the spirit in it. Even Widewind's spirit.
Elements of the spirit?
Each of the 12 who brought the Godhammer forth would have done anything to save the Dyrwood, save its people. It is why we were chosen. Each of us hated this pretender. That rage, that spirit, that rebellion went into our work, and went into studying him as well.
Widewind. Why?
We all studied Widewind. He was our enemy, and he had provided the flesh the god wore as a cloak. That flesh made him vulnerable. I knew what fields his hands had tilled, his family, what he had harvested, where he had been born. We sought to know him, what had led him to fight us.
Why was that important?
You don't kill the god. You kill the man it inhabits.
Fair enough.
And you leave that man a ruin. Burn him to ash. The weapon was meant to not only burn his flesh, but it would burn his soul. And it did. At the cost of our own. And at the cost of our goddess's favor. That whore be damned.
Is that why your image was blurred in the dream? Durance frowns, glances at you with a sharp look. Perhaps your eyes were blinded by the Godhammer's light, Watcher. He snorts. I may feel half a man at times, but even that is twice that of most others.
If you fear for my spirit, your fears are baseless. The Godhammer, seeing its light, only fueled my anger and made me stronger. Made me re-examine the teachings of Margren. Put them in a new light.
It looked as if there was only part of you, as if your spirit had been sheared in half.
I do not need you to cast any more questions on me, Watcher. Nor did I ask you to look upon me without my leave. Get gone, and leave me be.
Well then. Durance, you crazy. Alright, so I just gonna go explore this quick save. Just check out this room. This is probably the end of this area, I would assume. Whether by design or by consequence, the sputtering candlelight, the hooded statue's face is almost impossible to see. Ooh, necklace. You can just hold on to that, Durance. Devotees have placed assorted keys of their teeth filed away among the tunnels of wax. Ooh, look at the money. Is that a... almost looks like a door there. There's nothing else around here I missed. Sure that's not like a thing? That looks like a thing. Alright, so we have cleared out this dungeon area, and now we have a few more destinations. The prisoner, the tower, and something else. But for those, I'll see y'all next time.